Okay, here's the February wrap-up. Welcome to Rethink Real Estate. My name is Ben Brady, and this is a real estate podcast aimed to deliver sales strategies, marketing tips, and business insights from industry experts and myself to build a listing-focused business for the future. Let's get into it. February in the books, folks. So let's talk about what it was like for Harcourts Auctions in the month of February. Interesting would probably be the word, and I know I use that word a lot, but when I say interesting, there's a couple of different things that I want to sort of break down. If we come into the Californian marketplace quickly, where we do a lot of business in Southern California, is that, we had a property that went through the auction process. It was a situation, it was in Irvine, bidding to start from at it was just under $2 million and ended up selling for like a record in the marketplace. An unbelievable value prior to auction. We didn't have a lot of interest in it. They came in sort of early on and just paid a ridiculous price to stop the auction. But then you sort of go down the other path, and a very similar property in not the exact same location, probably a better location, arguably, around the same price point, was on the marketplace traditionally for 2 weeks, and then that was converted over to auction because the interest wasn't there. We did a $600,000 price reduction on it to a bidding to start from. It was at $2.9 million, $600,000 price reduction to $2.3 million. And the level of interest that we had on the property was marginal from a perspective of an increase. So arguably better area, and the other property obviously going really quickly. And I think that that's one of the things that I'm looking at is very circumstantial at the moment. It's all about timing, different people in the market at different times. It isn't the same onslaught at particular price points that what we have seen previously. I'm dealing with one at the moment that's currently live on the marketplace. It's a property in Laguna Hills. For those that know that locally, it's a price point of a bidding to start from at $1,150,000. And we had 27 groups of people through the front door on the first Friday and Sunday open house. As an auction, brand new to marketplace, hasn't been on the marketplace traditionally previously. We only got 2 offers. And that is really strange, not only for an auction with that much volume of people, but also in that marketplace as well at that particular price point. Now, the other thing is that, some of you might have been tracking this previously, but Soma, the property that we technically did sell it for $45 million. That property is now back on the marketplace based on the situation of that deal. And now it's back on the marketplace, and bidding to start from is at $38 million. And we've seen a really good amount of interest in comparison to last time at that price point. So again, a little confusing. Then all the way down to a $300,000 condo that we're doing in Santa Ana that is one of the most beautiful little condos I've ever seen, but it's in a rough area. And you would think at around $300,000, we would be inundated with interest, which we were at some of the open houses, but it was slow to get going, and the offers have trickled in relatively slow as well. But where I'm going here is you can't pick the pattern in any way, shape, or form at the moment. Then if we look at the wider marketplace, there are some parts of the country, just to be clear on this, and I don't want to be a doomsayer, but they are really rough. Probably the roughest I've ever seen those marketplaces since I've been here over the last almost 12 years now, is that the Southern Florida marketplace is relatively dead. Regardless of whether it's single family home or it's condo, the condo marketplace was always a challenge. There's no doubt about it because of the oversupply. But there are parts of that area that if we get a phone call to partner with an agent in order to do an auction, it's sort of like, what's the point? We are experiencing a situation at the moment in Colorado as well, in Denver, just outside of Denver. Property got reduced by $2 million to a $3 million bidding to start from price. Not one phone call, not one showing. Now, that right there is a scary prospect that when you go external to the mountain communities, we're doing one in Steamboat at the moment that you put on the marketplace, and it's a $3 million bracket. We put it on the market at $2.3 million, and we're inundated with interest and ended up with good interest above $3 million. That doesn't make any sense to me. In the more major metropolitan marketplace that has more lookers and has a greater volume of people, and then in the off season with a property that had already been on the marketplace for months, that happens. You look at the Pacific Northwest where, our Harcourts network does quite a lot of transactions, is one of the better performing networks in all of the Pacific Northwest, more specifically Oregon, and market's still moving pretty good. Had a really good start to the year. Northern California, the Bay Area, definitely days on marketplace have extended out. Tennessee, has still seen the suffering that it was suffering last year as well. I think that's one of those casualties of being overhyped. The Carolinas, some of the stuff that we've done there, it's okay, not great. Texas, depending on where you are, Austin is a real problem. However, we did have a really great successful result there, but a brand new construction property, bidding to start from on that property at 1.2, ended up selling for $1.6 million prior to auction. Again, another reason why people are like, well, why would we do auction if you don't have a great deal of interest in it? The reality was this one buyer thought that they would have to be in a bidding war on auction day, and they placed an offer in at 1.4 million. We got them to 1.6 prior to auction to stop the auction. Again, a really good result. But all in all, have to be clear about something is that our success rate in the month of February definitely wasn't what I'd like it to be. It was just over 50%, okay, of what we brought on, we sold. Obviously, most of those properties are still extending out and have been postponed. That's the flexibility that we have with auction. And one of the reasons we postpone a property is because of the fact that we don't want to put it back to the traditional price it was previously from an agent perspective, because it would just kill the level of inquiry. And it's about the seller really feeling out the market. That's definitely one thing I'm seeing more and more of at the moment is sellers being more willing to listen to the marketplace if you can present them with something, because they are seeing that it's tougher. The one thing that I just want to sort of put a final tab on in the month of February is I had a conversation with an agent yesterday that they're like, oh, look, my broker told me to, be optimistic with my sellers and make sure that they know that, that everything's okay and, we can sell it at another time and things like that. And I had to correct them, and it's something that I can't not, is that if you are on the marketplace and this property was at $1 million, the bidding to start from was 750, and we had not had one offer at 750. That is a real opportunity to educate your client. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we haven't had anybody that wants to buy your property. It's always been about the location. It's always been about the property itself. And there's been excuses not to even go forward at $750,000. That speaks to me that now is the wrong time for you to put your home on the market. It's actually a little bit frightening that you're $250,000 away from where you would like to be, and yet we can't even get the people that are coming through the property to make an offer at any price. That becomes a property thing. That's what I would be telling the seller. Giving them the rainbows and butterflies of it'll be fine will only set you up for failure later, and it will only harm the relationship later. You can be politely firm in the sense of what's happening. Don't hide behind niceties. Lean into the fact that you are going to have conversations about it's taking longer to sell. Okay, you are going to have conversations about, telling them about, well, yes, that one did go into escrow down the street, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your property is worth that. That means that that's one more good buyer that's now out of the marketplace, because we don't have an abundance of good buyers in the market at the moment. Oftentimes people clinch. I was speaking to a gentleman in Florida yesterday, just outside of Miami. He's like, yeah, but the one down the road, a similar property, just went into contract for $3.8 million. And I'm like, well, that's not good news, because that really good buyer has now purchase something and isn't going to purchase yours, and we're going to have to wait for someone else to re-enter that marketplace, or your expectations are going to have to change. That property getting that amount of money actually means yours probably worth less now, because you're dealing with the people that have already said no to that property, if there is any. So putting it into perspective is an important part, not letting people hide behind the factor of that, I'll just have that conversation later, or I don't want to upset the apple cart. I think you're going to have to, otherwise your list to sale ratio will be pretty well affected in a lot of the different marketplaces. Simply getting lucky or hoping that it moves quickly is not something that you should do, okay, in any way, shape or form. So again, being realistic about your market, being realistic about the timeframes that are on there, going through a process of elimination with your client by putting it on at their price and swiftly moving, whether it be to an auction, whether it be to price reductions, whatever it may be. But again, making sure that you're addressing what's going on. Thanks so much, team. Look forward to a successful March and hopefully the marketplace picking up a little bit more. So about 75% of our audience hasn't liked, followed, or subscribed to our podcast. It would mean the world to us, and it would help this podcast more than you know to expand our reach if you were to like, follow, or subscribe on any of the platforms that you're watching or listening on. Thanks again.